What's going on, everyone? Tonight I've got a wild story to tell, and it's one I've kept buried for years. It's about a scorched earth, ghosting situation that turned into my ultimate revenge against my cheating fiancé. The people involved were me, my ex-fiancé, and believe it or not, her mother. This all went down between 2013 and 2016, and to this day, no one in my current circle knows a single thing about it. I've got some wine in hand, so I figure it's finally time to let it all out. Back then, I thought I had stumbled across the perfect partner. We first crossed paths in our last year of college. We met at a party, hit it off almost immediately, and it snowballed from there. She was the kind of woman who could easily turn heads, blonde, tan, the kind of figure people compare to Kate Upton. Beyond looks, she seemed genuine, empathetic, warm, and incredibly easy to talk to. She blended seamlessly with my friends, and I got along well with hers. Eventually, several of our friends even started dating each other, so the whole group dynamic was amazing. On paper, things couldn't have been better. I was heading into post-grad work in finance, and she had just finished her degree in contract law. Both of us were set for successful futures, and while I wasn't exactly a pro athlete, I was in shape, about 5 feet 11 inches, 190, spent time at the gym, and felt confident about myself. The one thing I didn't have much experience with was relationships. I was shy, and she was only my second serious one. Still, from the night we met, hours of non-stop conversation, then constant texts and calls afterward. It felt like we were meant to be. After a year together, when I'd started my new job, she moved in with me. Her family welcomed me with open arms. Her dad was distant with everyone, but her mom loved me like one of her own. Our romance was whirlwind. Over the course of 2.5 years we traveled overseas, went hiking, took luxury vacations, and built a life together. When I proposed, she said yes without hesitation. I was ecstatic. We began wedding planning, house hunting, dreaming about kids and the future. Everything seemed flawless. Then the cracks appeared. Not long after I put the ring on her finger, I noticed her pulling away. At first, it happened maybe once a week. She'd seem cold, detached, not as affectionate, but by the next day she was her usual loving self again. At the time, I didn't think much of it. But I was a fan of Reddit stories on YouTube, so something in me decided to just keep watching quietly. Over time, her little cold spells grew more frequent, until they were happening almost nightly. We were still intimate, her relationship with her parents seemed fine, but I couldn't shake the feeling something was off. That suspicion only deepened during Thanksgiving when we visited her parents in Louisville. In front of her family, she acted distant with me. Her mom noticed immediately, pulled her aside, and they had a heated but muffled argument in another room. They came back out acting normal, but the moment stuck with me. Later, I asked her about it, and she brushed me off, saying we'd talk at home. Even then, she refused to really explain. After about a week of pressing gently, she finally told me a guy at work had been trying to get close to her. To prove she wasn't hiding anything, she showed me her texts. Sure enough, nothing incriminating was in there, but I quickly realized all the messages from those nights she'd been cold with me were missing. Deleted. That's when I quietly turned on her phone's location sharing through our plan. I figured it would only prove she wasn't up to anything. I couldn't have been more wrong. 2 weeks later, she had her company Christmas party. I'd planned to go with her, but the night before I was hit with brutal food poisoning. I couldn't leave the bathroom for more than half an hour at a time. She went without me, got picked up by a girlfriend, and I wished her a fun night out. While I was glued to the toilet, I checked her location. First, she was at a restaurant. Then the company event. Then a bar. All fine so far. But around midnight, I saw her stop at a downtown hotel. My stomach dropped. Though to be fair, I was already violently sick in every possible way. I fell asleep from exhaustion around 2 a.m. When I woke up at 7, she was still at that hotel. At noon she finally came home, cheerful, doting, acting as if nothing had happened. I asked about her night, careful not to mention I knew her whereabouts. She told me all about dinner, the party, the bar, then said she crashed at her girlfriend's place. That was her first real lie. Over the next 3 months she started working late more and more, 3, sometimes 4 nights a week. Every time I asked, She brushed me off with excuses that I started noticing changes in her behavior that didn't sit right with me. She became more defensive, more distant, and the warmth she once had toward me seemed to fade. One evening when she stayed out late, I sat down with her mother and brought up the strange conversation we'd had at Thanksgiving. Her mom admitted she'd been feeling uneasy as well. She had picked up on her daughter's body language and suspected she might be seeing someone else. She told me that even in their weekly text conversations, her daughter had been colder and less open than before. That suspicion stayed in the back of my mind, gnawing at me. A couple of weeks later, my company put me on a new project that required me to fly out to the Midwest every Monday and return Friday, for 5 weeks straight. The promotion came with a nice pay bump, and when I told my fiancé, she acted thrilled for me. But deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that her excitement wasn't for the reasons I wanted. Quietly, I ordered 4 small motion-activated cameras and hid them around our apartment: the living room, kitchen, bedroom, and hallway. They were discreet, connected to the internet through a hidden network, and password protected. Nobody could see them on the Wi-Fi. Then I waited. During my first week away, she spent the first 2 nights with her girlfriends, no late nights at work. But on the 3rd night, a man showed up. My stomach dropped. From my hotel room, I watched them on my screen, and I lost it. I shouted at the monitor, cursed, and felt my chest burning with anger as they went at it first on the couch, then in our bed. She did things with him that she'd never done with me, and it tore me apart. The lowest moment was when I called her during the act. She literally paused, phone in hand, while the guy stopped mid-thrust to answer my call. Out of breath, she told me she was at the gym working out. As soon as the call ended, she went right back to him like nothing happened. That Friday when I got back home, I said nothing. I avoided her, went to bed early, and the next morning I got on my bike. I rode so far and so long that I didn't even realize until later that I'd covered over 105 miles, more than triple my usual ride. By the time I got back, I was completely drained. We went out that evening with friends, laughed, drank, and even had sex later that night. To her, it was just another fun weekend. To me, it felt like breakup sex. Even if she had no idea what was coming. Inside, I was a wreck, heartbroken, furious, and drowning in betrayal. I loved her more than anything, and that love made the pain unbearable. Eventually, I opened up to one of our mutual friends, hoping for some clarity. He told me the truth. They had all known about her affair for months. None of them said a word. They pitied me but thought it wasn't their place. That explained why we'd been invited out less and less. They were cutting me out without me even realizing it. Still, I tried to fight for her. The next weekend, I went all out. Fancy dinners, gifts, massages, endless affection, deep conversations about our future together. I wanted her to feel my love and maybe, just maybe, break free from whatever she was doing. That night, after a few glasses of wine, she broke down crying. I could see the guilt clawing at her. I asked gently what was wrong. Told her that if she had a secret or had done something terrible, she needed to tell me. I promised her I was willing to forgive, to move on, to heal together. But all she could say was, "I love you." Hearing that from her hurt more than silence. Because while she spoke those words, I already had 4 separate videos of her and this man in our apartment. The weeks went by. Every trip I took, I collected more footage. Over 41 hours in total of her with him. Every single week I was gone. She never once stayed late at work. She never once stopped. And every weekend when I came home, I poured myself into her while she drifted further away from me. Finally, I'd had enough. I crafted a plan, not just to leave, but to leave in a way that she could never recover from. First, I gathered all the evidence and stored it securely. Then I booked us a 2-week luxury trip to Barbados, all-inclusive. She lit up when I told her, overjoyed. A week before the trip, I told her something had come up at work and I couldn't go. I encouraged her to invite a friend instead. Without hesitation, she invited her coworker, the same man she'd been sneaking around with. That was the moment I knew beyond doubt it was finished. While she was preparing for her little vacation with him, I set the rest in motion. I terminated our lease. Since the apartment was in my name, it was easy. I accepted a new job in the very Midwest city I'd been traveling to, with a slight raise. I secured a new apartment there, ready to move in. And I timed it perfectly. 3 days into her trip, our lease would officially expire, and she would come home to nothing. I had my escape mapped out, step by step. She thought she was running away with her lover to paradise. In reality, I was setting her up to return to an empty home, no lease, no partner, no explanation, just silence and the weight of her own betrayal. That I drove her to the airport, came back home, and began packing up everything she owned. This was on a Saturday evening around 7. That same day I also went and got a new phone, new number, a fresh email address, and shut down all of my social media accounts. By Monday, I had untangled every financial tie we had together. I emptied our joint accounts, put every penny that belonged to her into an envelope, and tucked it into her things before closing the accounts. The following day movers came and packed up all of my belongings to ship west to where I had already decided to restart my life. Then I loaded every last one of her possessions into my truck, a crew cab F-250 that managed to hold it all in the back seat and bed. I made the long drive, about 600 miles, to her mother's place to return her things. That evening, around 8, I pulled up to her mom's house. Since it was in a gated neighborhood, I had to buzz in at the gate, so she was already outside waiting when I arrived. She looked wrecked, red eyes, face streaked from crying. When I got out and walked toward her, she immediately clung to me, sobbing uncontrollably. Through her tears she confessed she believed her husband had been unfaithful, with someone younger, slimmer, prettier. I just stood there, stunned, holding her for nearly 10 minutes while she soaked my shoulder with tears and snot. When she calmed down a little, we went inside to talk. She explained her husband had told her he was away on a fishing trip with some friends at a cabin an hour away, but the truth was he hated fishing. She went on to share all the little signs she had noticed, and it seemed she'd been suspecting something for over a year. So we did some digging. Pretty quickly we found a hotel charge on his credit card. 5-star place only 20 minutes away. A quick phone call confirmed he was checked in there for a 4-night stay with his mistress. I looked at her and said, 2 peas in a pod. She asked what I meant, and I told her flat out. Your husband is cheating on you. And your daughter is cheating on me. That's why I'm here, to leave her things and move on. Then I showed her the binder of evidence I'd collected, all the screenshots and records. She flipped through a few pages, looked at me in shock, then broke down again. We held each other and cried for half an hour. Finally, she wiped her face, looked me dead in the eyes and said, Enough crying. Tonight there's nothing we can do about any of this. So we're going to open these bottles of Moscato and drink, and enjoy every room of this house while we're at it. She grabbed a couple of glasses and one of the bottles, walked out toward the pool deck, and called back. Well, are you coming? Or are you going to pass on your revenge? I'll spare the raw details, but for the next 3 days she and I barely left the house. We drowned ourselves in wine and passion, letting go of all the pain. I lost track of how many times we were together, but I know it was more in those 3 days than I'd ever had with her daughter in months. When it was finally time to go, we shared a heated goodbye, before I drove off to the new city where I was beginning my life again. Afterward, she kept me updated on what happened once my ex-fiancé got back from her trip. The day she landed was pure chaos. I had canceled my phone line that very morning, so when she landed and tried calling me for a ride, she got the disconnected message. She ended up having her affair partner drive her home. When she arrived, she was met at the door by complete strangers, new tenants who had already moved into what used to be our place. She completely freaked out. She kept trying to reach me, but my number was gone. With nowhere else to go, she stayed with a friend for a while. Eventually she called her mom in a panic, only to be told that I had dropped off all her belongings and money, and that her mother knew about her affair. Her mom didn't tell her about what had happened between us, but she did let her know I'd left town for good, found a new job, new place, and cut off every connection. On top of that, her mom also decided to leave her own cheating husband. From what I heard, my ex cried for days, even took a week off from work, before she went crawling back to the married man she had risked everything for. Meanwhile, I stayed gone, cut ties completely, and never looked back. The only person from that old life I've ever stayed in contact with is her mother, and she has kept what we shared a secret to this very day. In the end, My ex was ghosted in the most absolute way possible.